Another piece of black trash from the ghetto wasting my courtroom. Judge Harold Whitmore glared at the 19-year-old black girl standing alone below. No lawyer, no family, no one. Couldn't afford a real lawyer? Your kind never can? Too busy cashing welfare checks and popping out babies. He leaned forward, sneering. No father, right? Don't even know who he is. Mother on food stamps. Section 8. Teaching you stealing is easier than working. He waved like swatting a cockroach. You people disgust me. Born criminals. White attorneys smirked. Black families sat frozen. But the girl wasn't crying. Her dark eyes were scanning, calculating. Have you ever been destroyed before speaking a single word? Here's what Whitmore didn't know. This black teenager wasn't who she appeared to be. She was sent here for him. Every word captured. His 32-year career about to end. Destroyed by the girl he called trash. Jefferson County Courthouse stood like a monument to a different era. Built in 1892, its marble columns and faded grandeur whispered stories of a time when justice wore a very specific face. White, wealthy, and male. A Confederate memorial still stood in the parking lot. City Council had voted 3 times to remove it. 3 times, heritage preservation groups had blocked them. The statue remained, a silent greeting to every black family walking through those courthouse doors. Inside, the building's decay matched its soul. Cracked marble floors echoed with footsteps of the desperate. Portraits of white judges lined every hallway. 130 years of faces that looked remarkably similar, as if justice itself had been copy-pasted across generations. The metal detectors at the entrance told their own story. Black visitors were stopped twice as often, searched more thoroughly, questioned more aggressively. A mother with 3 children waited 20 minutes while security examined her diaper bag. A white businessman in a suit walked through with barely a glance. This was Jefferson County. This was how things worked. Every day, over 200 cases moved through this building. Assembly line justice. Exposed. 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 4 minutes per defendant. Next case. 4 minutes. Next. The system didn't have time for nuance, didn't have patience for context. It processed bodies, predominantly black and brown bodies, with mechanical efficiency. Exposed, exposed, exposed. And presiding over courtroom 4, the busiest courtroom in the building, sat Judge Harold Whitmore, 63 years old, silver hair perfectly styled, Rolex watch glinting under fluorescent lights, 32 years on the bench, longer than many of his defendants had been alive. They called him the Hammer, not because he was tough on crime, because he was surgical in his cruelty, and his cruelty had a very specific target. His sentencing record told the story that polite society refused to acknowledge. A black single mother couldn't pay parking tickets, 90 days in jail, her children sent to foster care. A white college student caught with cocaine, probation, a handshake. Boys will be boys. A black teenager shoplifted food for his hungry siblings, 18 months in juvenile detention. A white businessman on his 3rd DUI, a fine and continued driving privileges, pattern after pattern after pattern. 14 formal complaints had been filed against Whitmore in the past decade. Exposed. 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 Because Harold Whitmore wasn't just a judge. He was a protected species. He golfed with District Attorney Richard Coleman every Saturday. He attended charity galas with Police Chief Warren Brody. His Christmas parties featured half the county's power structure. Touch Whitmore, and the whole network would mobilize against you. So nobody touched him. Nobody dared. The black girl standing before him today, according to the file he hadn't bothered to read, was named Chloe Brooks. 19 years old, charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, allegedly caused a disturbance at Morrison's grocery store. Too poor for an attorney, representing herself. Whitmore saw 1,000 like her every year. They blurred together in his mind, one endless stream of black faces to be processed and punished. He wouldn't remember her name by lunchtime. What he didn't see, what his arrogance blinded him to, were the details that didn't fit. The folder she carried had colored tabs inside, blue, red, yellow, organized with precision, not the scattered paperwork of a frightened teenager. Her posture was wrong, back straight, shoulders squared. Most defendants curved inward, trying to become invisible. This girl stood like she had every right to be there. And her eyes, those dark eyes that moved methodically across the room, cataloging camera positions, noting the court reporter's location, registering exits. Chloe Brooks wasn't her real name. Her real name was Chloe Kennedy, and she had spent 5 years preparing for this exact moment. In the third row of the gallery, another woman watched silently. Dr. Angela Morrison, mid-50s, dressed conservatively in a navy suit, a small notebook open in her lap, pen occasionally moving. She and Chloe hadn't exchanged a single glance since the proceedings began. To any observer, they were strangers. That was precisely the point. Elsewhere in the courthouse, hurrying through the hallways, was Raymond Foster. 55 years old, distinguished gray temples, 25 years as a civil rights attorney, the man who had mentored Chloe since her family's darkest hour, the man she had trusted like a father, the man who, just 12 hours ago, had left a voicemail warning Judge Whitmore that someone was investigating him. Raymond's warning had gone unheard, Whitmore's phone buried in his country club locker. But the betrayal was real. And Chloe knew everything now. The mentor she loved was friends with the monster who had destroyed her family. Today, standing alone in that courtroom, Chloe Kennedy was going to war. Against the system, against her own mentor, against 32 years of protected cruelty. She had never felt more alone. She had never been more ready. Before we return to that courtroom, you need to understand the weight Chloe Kennedy carried on her shoulders. You need to meet the ghosts. Deshaun Williams was 17 years old when his future was murdered. Not his body. His heart kept beating. But everything that made life worth living died in Judge Whitmore's courtroom. Honor student, basketball star, full scholarship to Duke University waiting in his mailbox. The first person in 4 generations of his family who would attend college. His mother had worked 3 jobs to keep him focused on school instead of streets. His grandmother had prayed every night for 18 years for exactly this moment. Then one evening, walking home from practice, police lights flashed behind him. He matched the description of a robbery suspect. Black, male, tall, between 15 and 30 years old. In other words, he existed while black in America. Deshaun had never stolen anything in his life. He had receipts for every item in his gym bag. 6 teammates could verify exactly where he'd been for the previous 3 hours. None of it mattered to Judge Harold Whitmore. Bail denied. Flight risk, Whitmore called him. This kid who had never left his hometown, who had a scholarship waiting, who had every reason to stay exactly where he was. For 48 days, Deshaun sat in an adult holding facility while the real robber was caught 3 states away. 48 days of violence and fear and desperation. Charges dropped. Case dismissed. Justice served. That's what the official paperwork said. But Duke's enrollment deadline had passed. The scholarship was given to someone else. His spot on the team was filled. 4 years of perfect grades. Thousands of hours of 6 a.m. practices. His mother's 3 jobs. His grandmother's prayers. Gone. All of it. Today, Deshaun Williams works in a warehouse. Loading boxes. Minimum wage. No benefits. His eyes don't light up when someone mentions basketball. They don't light up about anything anymore. His mother still keeps that scholarship letter framed on her wall. She dusts it every week. A tombstone for a future that Harold Whitmore killed with 2 words: bail denied. Then there was Patricia Evans, 45 years old, church secretary for 2 decades. Grandmother of 3 beautiful children she was raising after their mother's overdose. The kind of woman who brought casseroles to sick neighbors and organized clothing drives for homeless shelters. 1 broken tail light. That's all it took to destroy her life. When the officer pulled her over, Patricia made a fatal mistake. She asked a question. "Officer, may I ask why I'm being stopped?" Voice respectful, tone confused, hands visible on the steering wheel, exactly like she'd taught her grandsons to do. The officer called it aggressive questioning, then verbal resistance. Then, when Patricia repeated her question, obstruction of justice. They dragged her from the car, her grandchildren screaming in the back seat, handcuffs so tight they left bruises for weeks. Judge Whitmore sentenced her to 30 days. "Your people need to learn respect for authority," he said from his elevated bench. On the record, in front of dozens of witnesses, and not a single person did anything. Patricia lost her church job, couldn't explain a 30-day absence, lost her apartment, couldn't pay rent from a jail cell, lost custody of her grandchildren. The system doesn't ask why you were incarcerated, only that you were. The children went to foster care, separated, 3 different homes. The youngest still cries for Grammy every night. He's 5 years old. He doesn't understand why she abandoned him. She didn't abandon him. The system stole him. Harold Whitmore stole him. Patricia comes to this courthouse every week now, sits in the gallery, watches case after case, waiting. For what? She's not entirely sure. Maybe she needs to witness. Maybe she's hoping someone will finally stop it. Maybe she's waiting for today. And then there was Terrence Kennedy, 24 years old, first-generation college student, full scholarship for pre-law. He wanted to be an attorney, to defend people who couldn't defend themselves, to fight for justice in a system designed to deny it. The universe has a cruel sense of irony. A white classmate accused Terrence of assault. Her story was inconsistent. His alibi was airtight. 3 witnesses placed him in the campus library during the supposed attack. Security footage confirmed it. DNA evidence didn't match. Facts, evidence, truth. None of it mattered to Harold Whitmore. He refused to hear the alibi witnesses. "I've heard enough," he said, after listening to the accuser cry on the stand. Beautiful white tears falling from blue eyes, far more compelling than black evidence. 8 years. Whitmore sentenced Terrence Kennedy to 8 years in state prison for a crime that never happened. 3 years later, the accuser recanted. She had lied. Revenge for a rejected romantic advance. New attorneys found the suppressed evidence. DNA conclusively proved Terrence's innocence. He walked out of prison a free man. Free. What a hollow word. The Terrence Kennedy who entered prison, bright, hopeful, determined to change the world, didn't survive. The man who emerged was a shell, hollowed out by violence, broken by 3 years of being caged for nothing. PTSD. Severe depression. Episodes where he didn't recognize his own family. Today, Terrence lives in a psychiatric facility. Good days and bad days, but more bad than good. Some mornings he remembers his sister's name. Some mornings he doesn't. That sister is Chloe Kennedy. She was 14 years old when she watched them take Terrence away. Sat in that courtroom, this same courtroom, and watched the judge destroy her brother with absolute indifference. She didn't know Whitmore's name then. The records were sealed. The system protected its own, even from grieving families. But Chloe remembered everything else. His face, his voice, his contempt. She promised herself she would find him someday. 5 years. That's how long it took. 5 years of law textbooks and court records and obsessive research. 5 years of connecting patterns across hundreds of cases. 5 years of preparing for one single day. When the Bar Association's Judicial Conduct Committee approached her, she didn't hesitate. "We need someone he'll underestimate completely," they explained. "Someone invisible to him. A 19-year-old black girl with no law degree and everything to lose. Who better?" The night before her operation, Chloe went to Raymond Foster's house. The attorney who had helped with Terrence's appeal, the mentor who had guided her through grief and into purpose. She was going to tell him everything. Thank him. Ask for his blessing. Instead, she stood outside his window and heard him leave a voicemail. "Harold, this is Raymond. I'm hearing chatter about an investigation. Someone's coming for you. Be careful." Harold. First name, like a friend. Chloe's world collapsed silently in that moment. The man who had held her while she cried about Terrence was friends with Terrence's destroyer. But Raymond's warning never reached Whitmore. Country Club. Bourbon. Voicemail deleted unheard. Whitmore didn't know anyone was coming, and now neither did Raymond. Not until he walked into this courtroom and saw exactly who the investigator was. The mentor had failed to protect the monster. Now the monster would fall, and the mentor would have to choose a side. 5:30 in the morning. Chloe stood in her cramped apartment bathroom, hands braced against the sink, water dripping from her face. The mirror reflected someone she barely recognized, eyes red from sleeplessness, jaw tight with tension, but something else underneath. Something hard. Something ready. On her small desk in the next room sat everything she would need. A folder with colored tabs, blue for documented case patterns, red for recorded phrases from victim testimonies, yellow for timeline evidence, and one black tab at the very back. Information about Kevin Whitmore, the son, the secret, the weapon she hadn't shared with anyone. Her outfit was already laid out. Thrift store blouse with a small stain on the collar, plain jeans, slightly faded, scuffed flats, no jewelry, no makeup, nothing that would suggest she was anything other than what Whitmore expected to see. Another poor black girl from the wrong side of town. The goal was invisibility. The goal was to be so unremarkable that he wouldn't look twice. At 6:15, she opened her desk drawer and removed a small device. State-of-the-art recording technology, no bigger than a thumb drive, provided by the Bar Association. Legal in this state. One-party consent meant she only needed her own permission to record any conversation she was part of. She lifted her shirt and taped the device flat against her chest, just below her collarbone. Pressed the activation button. A tiny red light blinked once, then went dark. Recording. Her hand lingered over her heart. "For Terrence," she whispered. "For all of them." By 7:45, Chloe was parked 2 blocks from the courthouse, engine off, hands steady on the wheel. Her phone buzzed. Dr. Morrison. "Final check, how are you feeling?" Chloe considered the question. How was she feeling? Terrified. Determined. Sick with anticipation. Ready. "I'm good." "Whitmore has no idea?" Raymond's warning never reached him. He deleted the voicemail without listening. "Then he'll behave exactly as he always does." "That's what I'm counting on." Remember the protocol. Gather evidence. Document everything. Stay calm no matter what he says to you. And Chloe, he will say terrible things. He will try to break you. That's what he does. I know. When you have enough documented evidence of bias, give me the signal. I'll be in the 3rd row. I'll intervene and we'll make it official. Understood. And Chloe? Dr. Morrison's voice softened. Whatever happens in that courtroom, Remember, you're not alone, even when it feels like you are. We're watching. We're with you. The line went dead. Chloe took a breath, then another, then another. She stepped out of the car and walked toward the courthouse. The security line moved with agonizing slowness. Chloe observed the people around her. Black families clustered together, voices low, children fidgeting with boredom and fear. Mothers in their best church clothes, trying to look respectable for judges who would never see them as respectable no matter what they wore. Fathers standing rigid, jaws tight, already bracing for the worst. These were her people. The ones the system had failed for generations. The ones Harold Whitmore had spent 32 years grinding beneath his heel. Today, she would fight for all of them. Next. The security guard barely glanced at her ID. Exposed. Exposed. Case number? 2024 CF 4812. Courtroom 4. Move along. She moved along. Just another black face in an endless stream. Invisible. Perfect. Inside courtroom 4, the gallery was already filling with the morning's crowd. White attorneys claimed the front rows. Expensive suits, leather briefcases, collegial handshakes. They chatted easily, laughing at private jokes, utterly comfortable in a space designed by and for people like them. The black families sat in the back, cramped together on hard wooden benches, clutching documents and prayers with equal desperation. No one talked much. They knew better. Chloe noted everything as she entered. Court reporter in the right corner, fingers poised over the stenotype machine. Security camera in the left corner, red light blinking steadily. Bailiff by the main door, bored, checking his phone. Dr. Morrison sat in the third row exactly as promised, a book open in her lap. She didn't look at Chloe, didn't acknowledge her existence. Professional. Raymond Foster was nowhere to be seen. Not yet. At 8:52, a rumpled figure rushed up to Chloe. Daniel Reeves, public defender. Her court-assigned attorney. His suit was wrinkled. Coffee stained his tie. He flipped through her file with the exhausted efficiency of someone who had done this 10,000 times. Chloe Brooks? He didn't wait for confirmation. Disorderly conduct. Resisting arrest. Did you do it? No, sir, I didn't do anything wrong. He sighed, not dismissively, wearily. The sigh of a man who had heard that exact sentence from hundreds of innocent people who were convicted anyway. Here's how this works. Best case scenario, I plead it down to a fine and probation. Worst case, Whitmore decides to make an example of you and you spend 6 months in county. My advice? Say as little as humanly possible. Yes, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. Don't explain. Don't argue. Don't give him any reason to notice you. What if I want to present a defense? Evidence that proves, then you'll make him angry. Reeves looked at her, really looked, for the first time. Listen to me carefully. I've watched Harold Whitmore destroy people who talked back. Smart people. Innocent people. He doesn't care about evidence. He doesn't care about rights. He cares about control. If you challenge that control, he will hurt you. Understand? Chloe held his gaze. I understand. Good. Just keep your head down and maybe we both get through this morning without catastrophe. He was already moving toward his next client before she could respond. Another case. Another 4 minutes. Another life to be processed. Chloe took her seat at the defendant's table. Alone. At exactly 9 o'clock, the bailiff's voice cut through the murmur. All rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Harold Whitmore presiding. The chamber doors swung open. Harold Whitmore entered like a king returning to his throne. Silver hair immaculate, suit crisp and expensive. The confident stride of a man who had never faced a single consequence for his cruelty. He didn't scan the gallery, Didn't acknowledge anyone's presence. Didn't even glance at the stack of case files waiting on his bench. Why would he? This was just another day. Another 100 defendants to crush. Another 100 lives that meant nothing to him. He settled into his elevated chair, literally looking down on everyone in the room, and waved an impatient hand. "Let's move through these quickly. I have lunch plans at noon." Chloe watched him. This man who had stolen Terrence's future, who had broken Patricia Evans, who had murdered Deshaun Williams's dreams. He looked so ordinary, so human. But monsters always did. Her hand brushed against her chest. The recorder hummed silently against her skin. Soon, she thought. Soon you'll see exactly what underestimating me costs. The morning crawled past in a parade of small cruelties, case after case, life after life. Chloe watched from the defendant's table, cataloging everything. A young black man charged with petty theft. First offense, stole baby formula for his infant daughter. Whitmore barely let him finish his first sentence. Spare me the sob story. Exposed, exposed, exposed. The man's mother collapsed, sobbing in the gallery. His baby daughter would spend the next 6 months without her father. Next case. White college student. Same charge. Shoplifting. Stole a designer wallet worth 10 times more than the baby formula. Whitmore smiled. First offense? We all make mistakes. Community service, 30 days. And son? He leaned forward, almost fatherly. Stay out of trouble. You have a bright future ahead. The student's parents beamed. His attorney clapped his shoulder. Everyone smiled. No one noticed the pattern. Or rather, everyone noticed, but no one dared speak it. Chloe's hand moved to her chest. Still recording. Every word, every contrast, every proof. More cases flowed by. A black grandmother who had unknowingly written a bad check. 90 days. A white businessman caught embezzling thousands. Probation and restitution. A black teenager in the wrong place at the wrong time. 12 months. A white teenager with actual drugs in his pocket. Case dismissed with a warning. The evidence was mounting. The pattern was undeniable. But she needed more. She needed Whitmore to say it explicitly. Not just demonstrate his bias through sentencing, but speak it out loud, on the record, in words that couldn't be explained away. Finally, the bailiff called, Case 2924 CF 4812, State versus Chloe Brooks. Chloe stood, smoothed her simple blouse, touched her chest once, the recorder humming steadily. She walked to the defendant's table and stood alone. Judge Harold Whitmore looked up from his papers with visible annoyance. His eyes swept over her. Young, black, female, poor, alone. No visible support, no expensive attorney, no power. She saw the exact moment he dismissed her as irrelevant. His shoulders relaxed. His sneer deepened. Egom, he had already rendered his verdict. Disorderly conduct. Resisting arrest. He recited the charges without interest. Let me guess. You didn't do it? Not guilty, Your Honor. He snorted. Of course not. They never did it. That's the one thing your people have in common. Always innocent. Always the victim. Always someone else's fault. There it was. Your people. Chloe had seen that phrase in 46 different complaint files spanning a decade. Victim after victim describing the same words. And for 10 years, it had been dismissed as hearsay. Unverifiable. His word against theirs. Now she had it. His voice. His courtroom. His own words on tape. But one phrase wasn't enough. She needed more. She needed him to fully expose himself, to say things so explicit, so undeniable, that no political connection could save him. The morning's observations had taught her something crucial. Whitmore didn't just despise black defendants. He despised defiance. He became enraged when anyone challenged his authority, when anyone dared to look him in the eye instead of cowering. His ego was his weakness. If she pushed back, not with anger, but with calm, articulate resistance, he would lose control. He would say things he couldn't unsay. He would destroy himself. She just had to be willing to take the abuse. For Terrence, for Patricia, for Deshawn, for the baby whose father was just sentenced for stealing formula. Chloe straightened her spine, met his contemptuous gaze, and spoke in a clear, steady voice. Your Honor, I have evidence that contradicts the police report. 3 witness statements from independent store customers who observed the incident. I'd like to present them for the court's consideration. Whitmore's eyebrows rose. Most defendants begged. Most defendants cried. Most defendants accepted their fate quietly. This black girl was asking to present evidence, like she had rights, like she mattered. His eyes narrowed. Good. Evidence? Whitmore repeated the word like it was an obscenity. You want to present evidence? In my courtroom? Yes, Your Honor. As is my constitutional right. Your constitutional right. He laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. Listen to this, everyone. A girl from the ghetto lecturing me about constitutional rights. Tell me, Miss Brooks, did you learn about the Constitution between drug deals? Or was it during one of your mother's many visits from different fathers? Laughter from the front rows, white attorneys enjoying the show. Chloe kept her voice level. I've prepared documentation that demonstrates the charges against me lack proper foundation. Section 14 to 288.4 of the State Criminal Code requires proof of intent to cause... Stop! Whitmore held up his hand. Did you just quote a statute at me? I'm presenting my defense, Your Honor. You're wasting my time. His face reddened. You walk into my courtroom in your thrift store clothes with your food stamp education, and you think you can lecture me on the law? I'm not lecturing, Your Honor. I've been on this bench for 32 years. 32 years. I was interpreting law before your mother started collecting welfare, before your grandmother started collecting welfare. How dare you? How dare you stand there and pretend you understand anything about this system? The witness statements clearly show... Witness statements? He grabbed the papers she'd submitted and held them up with theatrical contempt. These witness statements? Let me guess. Friends of yours? Cousins? Baby daddies? Other criminals willing to lie for one of their own? They were independent customers in the store, Your Honor. Complete strangers who will say anything to help another black defendant beat the system. He tore the pages in half, let them flutter to the floor. There, that's what I think of your evidence. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Even some of the white attorneys looked uncomfortable. Whitmore didn't notice. He was lost in his righteousness now. 32 years of unchallenged power had convinced him he could say anything, do anything, and face no consequences. You people, he continued, leaning forward, finger pointed at Chloe like a weapon. You come in here with your attitudes and your excuses. You waste taxpayer money. You drain resources from hard-working Americans. You breed like rats and expect the rest of us to clean up your mess. Chloe's heart pounded. The recorder captured every word. I've processed thousands of your kind, he spat. Thousands. And you're all identical. No fathers, no discipline, no values. Just generation after generation of criminals raising criminals. A disease that keeps spreading no matter how many we lock up. Movement in Chloe's peripheral vision. The courtroom doors opening. A figure slipped in quietly, taking a seat in the back row. Raymond Foster. Their eyes met across the room. His face went chalk white with recognition. He knows, Chloe realized. He sees me. He understands exactly who I am and what I'm doing here. Raymond sat frozen, staring at her. his mentor, his mentee. In this moment, on opposite sides of everything, would he say something? Stand up and warn his friend? Expose her? Seconds stretched like hours. Raymond's mouth opened, then closed. His hands gripped his knees until the knuckles turned white. She could see the war raging behind his eyes. Loyalty versus conscience, friendship versus justice, the easy wrong versus the difficult right. He stayed silent. Chloe turned back to the judge. Whatever Raymond chose to do, she had work to finish. "Your Honor," she said calmly, "I'm simply trying to exercise my legal right to—" "Your legal right?" Whitmore laughed bitterly. "You want to talk about rights? Your people have been abusing rights for decades. Every handout, every special program, every time the system bends over backward to give you advantages you don't deserve. And what do we get in return? Crime, violence, decay, neighborhoods destroyed, schools ruined, a whole race of people who refuse to take responsibility for anything. That's not... It's exactly what it is." His fist hit the bench. "I'm sick of it. Sick of watching you people destroy this country while demanding we feel sorry for you. Sick of your sob stories and your excuses and your endless, pathetic victimhood." He swept his hand toward the gallery, toward the black families sitting in terrified silence. "You want to know why the prisons are full of your kind? Because you fill them. You. Through your choices, through your culture, through your refusal to be civilized." Chloe let him talk. Every word was another nail in his coffin. Every phrase was more evidence for the permanent record. "Do you have anything else to say, Miss Brooks?" he finally demanded. "Any more statutes you want to quote? Any more evidence you want me to ignore?" Chloe opened her mouth to continue, but Whitmore cut her off with a wave. "Never mind. I've heard enough. 15-minute recess." He stood abruptly. "When we return, you will plead guilty and stop wasting this court's time, or I will demonstrate what real consequences look like for people who disrespect my courtroom." He disappeared into his chambers. The door slammed behind him. Chloe exhaled slowly. Her hands were trembling, but her mind was clear. She had everything she needed. Enough recorded evidence to end his career. But across the courtroom, Raymond Foster was rising from his seat, walking toward her, his face a mask of conflicted emotion. Their confrontation was coming, and Chloe wasn't sure she was ready for it. Raymond caught up with her in the hallway. His hand grabbed her elbow, urgent. "What are you doing?" His voice was a harsh whisper. "Chloe, what the hell are you doing here?" She turned to face him fully. This man who had comforted her at her brother's sentencing, who had encouraged her to transform grief into purpose, who had promised to always stand beside her. This man who was friends with the monster who destroyed her family. "I think you already know, Uncle Raymond." His face crumbled. "You're the investigator, the one I tried to warn Harold about. It's you. And you're the one who tried to protect him." Her voice was ice. "Last night when you left that voicemail, Harold, someone's coming for you, be careful. Like you were protecting a friend." "How do you know about—" "I was outside your window. I heard every word." She stepped closer. "Harold? You called him Harold, first name. Like a buddy. Like someone you care about." Raymond's mouth worked soundlessly. Guilt, shame, fear, all fighting for dominance on his face. "Chloe, listen to me. It's complicated. Harold and I go back 30 years. We were in law school together. But that doesn't mean... Doesn't mean what?" Her voice cracked despite her determination to stay composed. "That you've been protecting him? That you knew exactly what kind of man he was while you sat with me, year after year, listening to me cry about what the system did to Terrence? I didn't know Harold was Terrence's judge, I swear. The records were sealed. By the time I discovered... But you stayed friends with him." The accusation hung in the air. "After. Even after you found out. Even after everything you learned about his patterns. You kept golfing with him, kept covering for him, kept being his friend. Raymond's silence was its own confession. For 5 years, Chloe continued, voice trembling now, I cried on your shoulder about what happened to my brother. 5 years. And you never once told me you knew the man responsible. You protected him instead of us. I didn't protect him, I didn't know how to tell you. I thought maybe I could change him, from the inside. Make him understand. How's that working out? He had no answer. Chloe studied this man she had once loved like a father, saw him clearly for the first time, the cowardice behind the charm, the complicity behind the kindness. You have a choice right now, Raymond. Go back in there and warn your friend. Save him. Expose me. Or stay silent and let me finish what I came here to do. If you bring him down, you don't understand. It won't be just him. The entire network will come after you. The DA. The police chief. Everyone he's protected for 30 years. They'll destroy you. Let them try. You're 19 years old, Chloe. You have no idea what these people are capable of. I know exactly what they're capable of. Her eyes blazed. I watched them steal 8 years of my brother's life. I visit him every month in a psychiatric ward because of what they did to his mind. The question isn't what they're capable of, Raymond. The question is, what are you going to do? Help them destroy me too? Raymond's face crumbled. For a long moment he just stood there, broken, lost. I didn't know, he finally whispered. About Terrence. About Harold being his judge. I would never have stayed friends if I'd known. But you knew what Whitmore was. You heard the stories, the complaints, you saw the patterns, and you looked away because friendship was easier than justice. He couldn't deny it, wouldn't even try. Choose, Chloe said simply. Right now. Your golf buddy or your conscience. Raymond looked toward the courtroom door, then back at Chloe. His eyes were wet. I never should have made that call. I knew something was wrong, felt it in my gut. But 30 years of friendship. He trailed off. That's not an excuse. Nothing excuses it. He straightened his shoulders. I won't warn him. Finish what you started. Chloe nodded. It wasn't forgiveness. Maybe it would never be forgiveness. But it was enough for now. She headed toward the restroom. She needed a moment alone. Inside, her phone buzzed. From Memorial Psychiatric Hospital. Urgent. Mr. Terrence Kennedy had episode last night. Condition unstable. Please call immediately. Her hands began to shake. Terrence. While she was here fighting, he was suffering. Alone. Afraid. She could walk away right now. Go to him. But if she left, Whitmore would keep destroying families. Keep breaking brothers. Keep creating more Terrences. She made her choice. Tell him I'm coming, she whispered to no one. Right after I finish this. Whitmore returned from recess looking refreshed, coffee in hand, smug satisfaction on his face. He had no doubt this black girl would do what they all did. Crumble, plead guilty, disappear. He settled into his throne and gestured dismissively at Chloe. Well, ready to stop wasting everyone's time? Chloe stood. Her hand brushed her chest, still recording. Actually, Your Honor, I have a confession to make. His eyebrows rose with theatrical interest. A confession? Finally. Some sense from your kind. Not a confession of guilt. Her voice rang clear through the courtroom. A confession of identity. What are you talking about? My name isn't Chloe Brooks. The courtroom went still. My name is Chloe Kennedy. Whitmore frowned. The name meant nothing to him. She was just another black face among thousands. 5 years ago, she continued, you sentenced a man named Terrence Kennedy to 8 years in prison. You refused to hear his alibi witnesses, refused to examine evidence. You looked at a young black man and decided he was guilty before the trial began. Whitmore's frown deepened. Trying to remember. Failing. Terrence Kennedy was exonerated 3 years later. DNA evidence. The accuser recanted. He was completely innocent. Just like he told you. Just like the witnesses you refused to hear would have told you. I don't recall every... He's my brother. Silence. Absolute, crushing silence. He's in a psychiatric facility now. Because of what you did. 3 years in prison broke him. Destroyed his mind. Stole everything he was and everything he could have become. Whitmore's coffee cup trembled slightly. So this is revenge? He tried for dismissive but landed somewhere closer to nervous. You came here to shout accusations? This is a court of law, not a platform for personal grievances. Chloe reached into her jacket. Bailiff, Whitmore started. She withdrew a badge, held it up so the entire courtroom could see. I'm a field inspector for the State Bar Association's Judicial Conduct Committee. Authorization Code JCC 2024-0812. Whitmore's face drained of color. Everything you've said today, every racist comment, every slur, every violation of judicial ethics has been recorded. She pulled out the device, pressed play. His own voice filled the courtroom. Another piece of black trash from the ghetto. Your kind never can afford lawyers. Too busy cashing welfare checks. You people disgust me. Born criminals. A disease that keeps spreading. Each phrase echoed off the walls. Gasps erupted from the gallery. White attorneys stared at their shoes. This is entrapment! Whitmore stood, face purple. This is illegal! One-party consent state, Your Honor. Every word captured legally. Your words, your voice, your racism, finally on record. You have a personal vendetta. My personal connection doesn't change what you said. 46 complaints in 10 years. Exposed, 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 exposed. Pattern exposed. Chloe reached into her folder, the black tab. But I didn't just come for my brother. I came to understand why. Why you've spent 32 years destroying black lives. She pulled out a yellowed newspaper clipping. 1987. Your son, Kevin Whitmore, 19 years old, drunk driving accident. Whitmore went rigid. 2 people died that night. Loretta Williams, 34, and her daughter Destiny, 6 years old. Chloe paused. Both black. Gasps, whispers, shock. Kevin's case was heard by your college roommate, Judge Robert Crawford. 2 years suspended sentence. Not a single day behind bars. Whitmore gripped the bench, knuckles white. That's when it started, wasn't it? Your son killed a black mother and her baby. And instead of facing justice, he was protected. By you. By your friends. By the system. Chloe's voice softened, but didn't waver. Every black defendant since then. They weren't individuals to you. They were Loretta and Destiny. Over and over. Punished for your son's crime. For your guilt. For 32 years. Whitmore's face crumbled. Tears ran down his cheeks. From the gallery, Dr. Angela Morrison stood. Judge Whitmore, I'm Dr. Angela Morrison, Senior Investigator for the State Bar Association. Ms. Kennedy is a certified field inspector operating under committee authority. These proceedings have been fully documented by multiple observers. She approached the bench. You are hereby suspended effective immediately, pending formal misconduct hearings. Court officers moved toward Whitmore. He looked at Chloe one final time. Broken. Exposed. You destroyed me, he whispered. Chloe shook her head. No. You destroyed yourself 32 years ago. I just turned on the lights. The courtroom erupted into chaos. Court officers escorted Whitmore from the bench. He shuffled past Chloe, legs barely holding him upright. 32 years of armor, stripped away in minutes. Their eyes met as he passed. "You took everything from me," he rasped. "No, Your Honor. I just made sure someone was finally watching." The door closed behind him. The gavel sat abandoned on the bench, a silent monument to power that would never be wielded again. And then came the wave. Black families who had spent years suffering in terrified silence rose from their seats. Patricia Evans pushed through the crowd, tears streaming down her weathered face. She grabbed Chloe's hands, held them tight. 30 years, Patricia said, voice breaking. 30 years ago, he sent my son to prison for nothing. My boy died in there. Died. And nobody believed me when I said the judge was cruel. Nobody listened. She squeezed harder. But you listened. You believed. You fought for all of us. More victims gathered around. Deshaun Williams's mother, clutching that framed scholarship letter she still carried everywhere. Marcus Thompson's sister, who had visited her innocent brother in prison for 3 years before his exoneration. Families Chloe had never met, but who had suffered under the same gavel. They surrounded her, touched her shoulders, wept openly. "Thank you," they whispered. "Thank you. Thank you." Chloe had promised herself she wouldn't cry. She had built walls around her heart to survive this day, to stay strong, to finish the mission. The walls crumbled completely. She sobbed, deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere primal. 5 years of grief and rage and exhaustion pouring out in the arms of people who understood exactly what she carried. She hadn't just done this for Terrence. She had done it for every person Whitmore had ever crushed. And now they were here, surrounding her, lifting her up. She wasn't alone. She had never been alone. A hand touched her elbow. Raymond Foster. She stiffened. The grief retreated. "I know I'm the last person you want to see right now," Raymond said quietly. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. Maybe I never will." "You're right. You don't." He nodded, accepting the judgment. "But I need you to understand. When I realized what I had done, what I had protected all these years, something broke inside me today. Watching you up there, watching you tear down everything Harold built. I understood for the first time how blind I had been. Blindness is a choice. It was. And it was the wrong choice. I see that now." He paused. "I can't undo the past. But I kept silent today when I could have stopped you. I let you finish. Maybe that doesn't mean anything." "It means something," Chloe said. "It means there's still a person in there who knows right from wrong, even if he forgot for a while." Raymond's eyes glistened. He nodded once and stepped back, disappearing into the crowd. Dr. Morrison approached, squeezing Chloe's shoulder. "You did it. Better than we ever imagined." "What happens now?" "Formal hearings, criminal investigation. At least 34 of his cases will be reopened. This is just the beginning." Chloe's phone buzzed. Memorial Psychiatric Hospital. Her heart stopped. "Excuse me." She stepped away from the crowd, pressed the phone to her ear with trembling hands. "Miss Kennedy? It's about your brother. Is he okay? What happened?" Actually, he's better." The nurse's voice was warm. "He saw the news. Your story went viral. Someone in the common room had the TV on. He watched the whole thing." Chloe held her breath. "He's asking to speak with you. It's the first time in 2 years he's initiated contact with anyone outside staff." Tears spilled down Chloe's cheeks. "Put him on, please." A pause, shuffling sounds. Then, "Chloe?" Her brother's voice, clear, present. alive. "Terrence, I'm here. I saw you, on TV, standing in front of that judge, not backing down. I did it for you. I did it." "No." His voice was soft but firm. "You did it for everyone like me, for people who don't have someone fighting for them." He paused. "I'm proud of you, little sister. For the first time in years, I feel something again. Like maybe things can actually get better." Chloe pressed her hand over her mouth to keep from breaking completely. "I love you, Terrence. I love you too. Now go finish what you started. I'm okay. I think I can finally start being okay." 6 months later. The headlines told the story. Judge Harold Whitmore, removed from bench, faces criminal civil rights charges. 34 cases reopened for wrongful conviction review. Deshaun Williams receives full basketball scholarship to Howard University. State legislature passes landmark judicial accountability reform. Chloe Kennedy graduated at the top of her class. 3 civil rights organizations offered her positions before she even received her diploma. She chose the one focused on judicial accountability because Harold Whitmore wasn't unique. There were others like him, hidden behind benches across the country. She would find them all. Terrence was released from the psychiatric facility. Outpatient therapy now. Good days and bad days, but far more good than before. When he watched his sister on the news, and there was always news, he smiled. A real smile. The kind that used to come easily, before the system tried to destroy him. One afternoon they sat together in the garden outside his residence, sunlight warm on their faces. "Starting that new case next week?" Terrence asked. "Alabama. Another judge with a pattern." "Another Whitmore?" "We'll see." He turned serious. "Don't let this become everything you are. Don't let the fight swallow you whole." Chloe took his hand. "It won't, because I have you to remind me what we're actually fighting for. Not revenge. Healing." 6 months after that courtroom, Chloe Kennedy stood in a different courthouse. Different state. Professional suit. Bar association credentials. Another judge who believed no one was watching. He was wrong, too. Behind her in the gallery sat Terrence. Patricia Evans. Deshaun Williams' mother. The families who had once felt voiceless, now witnesses to change they helped create. Some battles you fight alone, but victory belongs to everyone who refused to give up. If this story moved you, if you've ever been dismissed because of who you are, underestimated because of how you look, judged before you could speak, remember Chloe Kennedy. She had no money, no connections, no power in any traditional sense. What she had was knowledge, courage, and an unshakable belief that the truth matters. Sometimes, that's enough to change everything. The people who underestimate you, they're giving you an advantage. They're not watching closely. And by the time they realize their mistake, it's already too late. The next Chloe Kennedy might be watching this video right now. It might even be you.
What happened today isn't just a story. It's a reminder. Silence protects systems, but courage rewrites them. At Beat Stories, we don't just watch change, we document it. Subscribe for more real stories that challenge power and amplify truth.